Bonjour, Brett.
Bonjour.
What did happen on 18 November at Sotheby's?
I think we were, witnessing both a historic moment because to see that type of material coming to market is historic in terms of, we haven't seen in the market this kind of caliber of material, but a collection which has, you know, several masterpieces and obviously one extraordinary masterpiece. But to bring that exactly at a time when the market is both recovering but also feeling the jitters was a perfect storm because he ultimately had last night both traditional buyers, new buyers, and what I saw, which was very, very positive, was to see so much Asian bidding again because that has been the thing that has been absent in the last year and a half.
But is it the end of the crisis?
I don't think I don't think we're talking about crisis. Where is the crisis in the art market? We've seen a depreciation in the
As
market, and
some
we've seen.
galleries who have closed.
Yeah, but again, but it's very difficult to look at a Klimt and say that has relevance to a young gallery or to galleries that ultimately specialize in the primary area. You have to look at more the fact that these were blue chip works, high trophy works, and if you look at the gallerists that actually represent those artists, they're very few.
There was also the auction, the now auction, with very contemporary works, and it went very well, except for Kerry James Marshall, in fact.
Yeah, but I think if you look at that sale, I think first of all you have to also think about what the auction houses have been doing to date, meaning that there has been nervousness. They have been taking material that they feel comfortable to selling, and they've been taking estimates or setting estimates which are much more conservative. So I think they, meaning the auction houses, did a very good job in terms of bringing material to market that ultimately would do well in today's scene. It was quite a big sale, and they had obviously good collections. But where those things which didn't find traction and didn't sell, they either were seen to be overestimated or ultimately, the taste wasn't quite there. I mean, I think the Kerry James Marshall was a surprise for me because to have a Royal Academy show currently where you have phenomenal response and one of the greatest, actually one of the best shows that's currently on, and then to bring a masterpiece to market that doesn't, because that really was a phenomenal painting. But admittedly, you're dealing with an estimate of $10 million, which as a starting price is very aggressive. So I
Mm.
think, I mean, across the board, it wasn't just about Kerry James Marshall. So I think, that was a victim, unfortunately, when most of the
Collateral
works.
victim. But how can you, could you give me an example of how auction house adapt to the new prices?
Well, I think, if you think about the nervousness that the auction houses had in May, especially after, if you have a major Giacometti sculpture that doesn't sell, this was ultimately one of the, not all the messages, but we kept on hearing in every conversation we were having with collectors about whether you go to auction or not was basically we don't want to have another Giacometti situation, and that was the houses were saying this. If you talk to Christie's or Sotheby's, no one wanted to basically repeat that. So because of that, the auction houses were very careful in terms of making sure that the estimates that they were taking were correct. They were very reliant, obviously, on third-party guarantees, which they were able to achieve, but they also put forward a lot of house guarantees on material that they felt comfortable to support.
But
But I
could
think
you
that
give me
no,
an
but
example?
in terms of, well, for instance, we were very much involved with the, when say we, myself and Dominique were very much involved with the sale of the Basquiat painting that made a very good price. And we talked to both houses about the painting. We came, it was
The
understood that.
49 million, you mean?
Yes, yeah. So that, the 1981 painting. And this was a phenomenal painting that actually I'd sold when I was at Christie's to the previous owner. And when we were talking to the auction houses, we understood that an estimate had to be appealing, if one wanted to sell and the desire was to sell, then it really came down to, how do you create the right momentum? And the correct estimate strategy was crucial in order to excite people and to make a strong price. So the fact that ultimately that had three bidders and we saw it go well beyond its estimate was because of the well curated aspect behind the painting, meaning that the auction house took a very conservative opinion and the seller was willing to accept that. And I think that's been the difficulty to date has been to try and get sellers to agree to the prices that the auction houses want to put on these paintings. And the auction houses have generally said no, when ultimately that they couldn't get the prices. So I think a lot of what we've seen here has been an imbalance between a buyer's expectation, meaning that they're looking for discounts or they're looking for appealing estimates, and sellers who obviously don't need to sell. So if you look at ultimately the season, majority of what came for sale and came with the correct estimates were estates, because they had to sell and they were being talking to both houses and they got these much more conservative positions. On the individual objects, it really came down to, and this is obviously in the now sales, it came down to, were they able to get a third party to match the expectation of a seller? And in several cases, like the Kerry James Marshall, they weren't able to find a buyer.
Merci, Brett.